Hey everyone, welcome and thanks for joining. So, a couple of things. Starting right off the bat, this is the first one I'm doing solo. I don't think I've ever done any of these streams solo, so this is quite new for me. Unfortunately, Xandor couldn't make it. So Xandor and I, we were supposed to kind of chat about something in CSS, something that happened this month, or an interesting article or something. And yeah, so unfortunately he can't make it. So, but I thought like, let me just still do it solo. And there's a specific article that I've been wanting to read for a while, and I haven't read it yet. So I think this is maybe a good opportunity for me to kind of just work my way through it and kind of explain some of the things in the article, and also maybe show some demos. So before we get into that, I just want to super quickly. Mention that so what this exactly is. So this is kind of a new thing we're starting with FEDSA, which is called CSS Breakpoint, which is every month or every 2 weeks maybe. We'll see how it goes, where we just get some people together and we just chat about CSS. We chat about something in CSS, something new, some interesting takes, interesting perspectives, and any evolving like issues or so forth, and just kind of share it with the community at large. So if there's anything specific you want us to chat about, then yeah, please let us know. Also, same rules as always. If you have any questions, please pop them in the text chat over here, and I will have a look at them. I just want to super quickly just share the link for the stream in some places. Just give me a second. Yeah, sorry, it's been one of those days. Um, let's riveting stuff. Uh, all right. Okay. And I messed it up. It didn't. Okay. Let's give me 1 second. Let me try that again. I tried to share the link and it didn't work. Let me just show you guys. So at the very least, you're not looking at my face. Let me just share my screen. There we go. Okay. Awesome stuff. Okay. Fun times on. Fun times on. I think this is the link. Yes. Okay. There we go. Okay. So as mentioned, this is not with Xandor. He might pop in later, but unfortunately he can't join. So this is what I want to chat about. Wait. Is it sharing the tab? Oh. Okay. Let me try and share again. I don't know why it didn't. Fun times as usual. Okay, so let me try and share again, and then we take it from there. Present. I think I shared the window instead of the actual entire screen. Yes, I did the classic thing. All right. So this is something. This is an article I've been wanting to read for a while now, and several reasons. So the one is I'm a really big fan of the author, Nadia. You can check her out at developerway.com. So she wrote a book, and there goes my phone alarm as well. All right, cool. Yes, Vickers. The vibes are, I don't know, you're here for the vibes. I don't know what the vibes are. The vibes are unprofessional. So if that's what you want, you've come to the right place. So okay, so let's get started. So basically, I'm a really big fan of Nadia. She wrote a book called Advanced React, which really goes into React, the rendering pipeline, and so forth, and what causes re-renders, and a lot of misconceptions about re-renders in React and so forth. And sorry, just give me a second. Sorry. Okay, you might hear the kids in the background, and there goes my wife. Okay, one of those days. All right, let's. Kan jullie die deur toemaak asseblief? Jeez. Okay. All right. So I'll put a timestamp. I'll put a timestamp in the comments so you can just skip all of this. Okay. So effectively, yeah, a really good book called Advanced React, where she goes into a lot of misconceptions about React rendering and re-renders and stuff. I highly encourage you guys to check it out. You can go to developerway.com, which is where she shares most of her stuff. She recently wrote an article that I kind of want to just dive a bit into. I've been wanting to read it myself, and I think it's also a really cool thing to touch on. It's a really useful thing in CSS, and I think not a lot of people know about this. So and it's kind of a game changer. So it's basically the has selector, and if you've never heard about this, then like, are you in for a surprise? There's a lot of really other cool stuff that have been added to CSS since, and and yeah, sorry, yes, my wife just ran behind again. And so, but I think this is a really cool one, and hopefully we'll cover some of these new things that have been added to CSS in some of the future episodes. So basically, what this article is about and what I want to chat about is, as I mentioned, the has selector. So this is what's called it's called a pseudo selector. Um, and so you might have heard this term pseudo selector, and let me just make this a bit smaller. You might have heard this term pseudo selector before and not known what it is, or you might not. This might be the first time you're hearing it. So there's two type of things in CSS. The one is pseudo selectors. The other one is pseudo elements. Generally, as a rule, pseudo selectors you indicate with a colon. Pseudo elements you indicate with two colons. But due to some bugs in Internet Explorer and so forth, I stand to be corrected. I think you can do pseudo elements with a single colon, but this is technically the right way to write it. So, okay, so basically, what are these things? Okay, so you probably know that in CSS, you have selectors. Okay, so let's look at a specific example of a selector. Is there a way I can lock this? Yes. So obviously, like you have your classic stuff, like example, which allows you to select an actual element in the DOM. So you would go background red or whatever. Okay, but then you get pseudo selectors, and pseudo selectors are things that select things that aren't actual elements in your DOM. You can obviously do ID, or you can go, for example, div, and color red as well, and so forth. And these are actual elements in your HTML. So, but you can select things that aren't actual elements, and these are called pseudo selectors, i.e., pseudo. So it's fake. So basically, you do this with appending something like this. So you can go, you probably know, like hover. Yeah, someone said, Robert said, like the unprofessional vibes are the best vibes. I disagree, but a man would like to earn a salary at the end of the day, so your entire workday can't go like this. But yeah, I guess I make an exception for these. All right, so can I change this also to CSS? So basically, this is a pseudo class. Did I say pseudo selector? Okay, it's sorry, pseudo class. Actually, it's a pseudo class. No, now I'm confusing myself. I think it is called a pseudo selector. No, it's called the pseudo class. Okay. Yeah, it's a pseudo class. Sorry, my bad. And these two things are pseudo selectors. Sorry, I stand corrected. So this these two things are actual pseudo selectors, pseudo classes and pseudo elements. So basically a pseudo class, yes. So this is basically a state or something that's not actually a real thing. So, we can say on hover, um, green or whatever. Or we can go, if we have we can do like example dash, let's say we have an input somewhere, we can go input placeholder. Okay, I think it's placeholder. Let me just quickly see as well. So let's do placeholder. I think CSS. I think it's it's a pseudo element. Okay, so placeholder is not one. Active is one. I also think focus within is one. Yes. Okay. So you're targeting specific states of things and not actual things. And then obviously, so pseudo elements are kind of the flip side of that, where you are targeting things, but you are targeting things that isn't part of the HTML itself. It's not an element. It's something, that's related to element. So for example, you can go, let's take our example there. You've probably seen these before. Haha, mind the pun. Where you target the immediate area before actual element. Well, it's actually not before. It's inside the element before all the content in it. And likewise, there's after as well. A lot of people get confused by these and they don't know what they do. I might cover them like at a later point in a later session, but for now, it's just important to know that it allows you to actually target things that are not specifically in the HTML, that are kind of implicitly in the HTML, not explicitly. You didn't write out after tag or whatever, and likewise, you didn't write out a placeholder actual HTML tag, but you can style the placeholder, for a specific input. Okay, and so the difference is the two colons versus the one colon. Okay, so basically the has is basically a pseudo selector. Okay, and so that means that you are targeting something, you're kind of targeting something that's related to the actual thing at the front of the query, but it's not necessarily, you're not directly targeting something. So basically, let me give you the short version of it. Okay, so basically the short version of it is that you can go, for example, let's just once again use our example here, and then we can say has. Okay, and what the has does is, so there's a problem in CSS, that the thing is, you can write a query, so you can go, or a selector, you can go like, okay, like get me an unordered list, and in that unordered list, get me the LIs, and find an LI that has a class of active, and then immediately inside it, it should have a span that is like, let's say, check mark. Well, let's say input that is, I think it's selected, or is it checked? I think it's checked. Stand to be corrected. Let me just quickly see. CSS input checked. Yes, it's a pseudo class. Okay. So yeah, this is a good example. So let's say we want to select this, and then we want to say, so you're kind of looking at a structure like this. So you are looking at, let's say you have your unordered list, and then you have some stuff in there, and you have your LI, and let's say inside that is a input, and it's a type checkbox. Is it check or check? I think it's checkbox, if I'm not mistaken. Geez, I'm really struggling without the auto completion that you get in VS Code and so forth. So let me just quickly Google this, see if, yes, it's checkbox. Okay, and let's say it's checked. Okay, and then there's a couple where it has a checkbox that's not checked. So let's say there's one, above that. Oh, it's not checked. and so forth. But let's say what you want to do is based on this, you want to, the ones that are checked, you want to style the li of them. Okay, so let's say you maybe want to give the entire li a background color. So the thing here is this is fine, like you're able to find an instance where it's checked, but the problem is the query itself, where the query ends automatically, is the thing that you style in CSS. So that means if I, let's say I want to make the background yellow, then that means that, if this is my, check, like my list item, and and then I have, for example, here with my checkbox in it, um, it's going to style the actual checkbox yellow, not the actual list item that the checkbox is in. And that's because selectors always end, the last thing in the selector is the thing that you style. So the problem there is that obviously sometimes you want to select things based on a specific path, but you want to, like, actually the styling be applied to something higher up in the path. So in this case, the li. Not the actual end of the path, but we want to use the path to find the thing. So how people would previously do this is with like JavaScript. So you would go, let's say you would go document, query selector, unordered list with a li, okay, and sorry, li, and then immediate child of input checked. So you would then do this, okay. So you would get it, and then you would, I think it's parent or whatever. Let me just see, JavaScript parent method, DOM, or pattern parent returns a direct parent. Yes, okay, but it's oopsie, but it's an actual but it's an actual method that you call. Okay, cool. And then you would go, style, or actually, yes, then you would go style and equals background. No, style dot background, and let's say yellow. Okay, I might have made some syntax mistakes here. Also, the way I'm styling it over here is, if you're like, I'm just like styling it for readability purposes, but for all intents and purposes, this is basically what it is. If you prefer to write it like this, okay. So there you go. So this is how you would do it. Obviously, not great, or yeah, was because said jQuery. Yeah, okay. Or you would do this in jQuery. I did this a ton back in the day in jQuery. Okay, but so now there's a couple of problems with it. The first is that it's unstyled until your JavaScript actually renders. The other problem is as well, like, let's say we want a hover effect also based on this. So now, like, now it gets like really hard, because now you have to go, you have to append like a event listener, and you have to listen for like mouse over or whatever, and like, and then manually change the styles. You're basically rebuilding CSS from scratch. Whereas if you can just express it in CSS, it's much easier. So how would you do this? And this is where the has selector comes in. So effectively, what you would do is you would say that, I just need to get my bearings here. This is always the danger of like doing live coding. So I think, okay, so you start with the thing you want to target, okay, and then you say has, and I think then you express the. Let me just think about that. Then you express the actual path. No. No. Okay, so you do the query all the way up until the thing you want to target. Okay, so let's say there. All right, so you go UL li, and then then you say has, okay? And you say has, and then so it stops the query at that point, or it continues querying, but it stops the thing that you're going to style at that point. So you're saying, cool, go walk through the HTML, find the UL, find the LI, cool, put a pin in it, stop right here, but continue the query to check, whether the thing matches or not. Okay, so you just want to check, does it match or not? But you're stopping right here in terms of the thing that you're targeting. You're just using, so you can almost think about this, if you think about regex and you think about a positive, like look ahead or something, it's very similar. And I think then you can say, does it have input checked? Okay, there we go. And then you should be able to style this. And as mentioned, with the hover thing, we can then also just go has, and you can actually just do the hover. I think you can append 2 of these. You can append 2 pseudo classes together. Well, we're going to see now in a moment. Let me just actually chuck it into CodePen quickly. And let's just confirm that I'm not losing my mind. And everything I just explained is actually true. Okay, so let's put that in there. And let's just grab this. Let's see. Okay, cool. And hey, look at that. And we also have the hover effect. All right, so this is really nice. Okay, cool. Cool. This is phew. All right. I was just going off memory. It would have been really embarrassing if I completely misunderstood it. Okay, cool. So those are the basic things, and I think when you start diving into this, that's a very basic example. But with most basic examples, like once you start using it in very clever ways, like you can do some really advanced stuff. And I haven't read this article yet, but so I'm curious. It's probably going to explore like kind of more advanced or like practically applicable uses of this. So let's give it a go. So let's see. So basically, looking into what the new CSS selector is and how we can use it to improve our React code. So my guess would be that this kind of effectively what I just showed here, where you need to use this JavaScript to do the thing. Like this is probably just an example where it's just using kind of like the refs in React or something, in a very similar way. But yeah, React is just JavaScript, so or it's probably not doing refs. It's probably actually doing some type of calculation before it outputs the HTML. So it probably solves it on a templating level. So it probably manually appends, like, for example, manually appends a class to these. Like, for example, class checked inside or whatever. That would be my guess. So it probably while it creates the HTML, it probably appends these so you can use them. But the problem is like you're solving that on a templating level, whereas this is a styling problem. This isn't a templating problem. Okay, so because once again, I guess you can replicate the hover effect and so forth. But yeah, let's read the article. Since the beginning of CSS, at least, we've been taught that CSS is cascading. Yes. So this is also what the cascading part of CSS means. So when you think about cascading is like, almost like a stairs. It's like boof, 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 like step, step, step. So it cascades. So it kind of almost rolls forward. And so this is kind of like this idea, like you're cascading with your selectors. Okay. And this is where things like specificity and all of that come in. Okay, so it's supported in all major browsers. I don't know what the exact support is, but I just use it without prefixes or anything. Let's just see, can I use has? But it should be really well supported. Let's see. Yeah, it's like 91% of browsers. So Opera Mini, Alt IE. Yeah, so I guess, like as always, if you are concerned about these, just use progressive enhancement. Just ensure that this isn't breaking your app. If they can't see this, that is maybe just a nice effect or something. That is something that enhances the experience. But in an emergency, if they have some crappy old version of Internet Explorer or whatever, they can still use it. If you want to go that far back and how, like, it depends on you, like who are you serving. If you're doing work for like hospitals or government or whatever, like those guys are still running like IE8 in some cases. But if you're building like a tool for like a SaaS tool for developers or whatever, or like some SVG generator or something, you would generally expect that, okay, whoever's going to be using this should probably have a pretty decent browser. Okay. So the world is turned upside down. Cool. What practically users does this have in React world? And cool. If you remember in standard CSS. Oh, I don't know what happened with my screenshotting here, but okay. Well, let's just continue. And how it can be used includes practical. Okay. Oh, it like just cut out like a big chunk of it. So let me actually open the actual article. So the link is up here. And let's just look at the actual article. Oops. So, yeah. I should probably like not have my family WhatsApp group notifications show on here. Okay. So let's just go through this. If you remember in standard CSS, we can do this. Cool. So this is what I just showed, so you have nested selectors. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It just explains what it does. Yeah. You can also do things like siblings, and I think this is sibling. I can't remember what this one is called. I might show how to use them in a future session. Okay, so there's some code examples here. Let me actually see what the code example is. We couldn't select elements in the, yeah. So this is effectively what I said. You can't, like, as you cascade through your selector, where it ends is the thing that you apply the styles to. You can't go back up. So you can't have a selector that says, that goes back up in the tree. That's like, if this thing has this parent and so forth. So this is effectively what has does. It theoretically, it doesn't go back up, but it allows us to stop at a certain point and say, okay, continue with your validating the selector, continue checking if this rule is true. But if this rule is true, the point that we just stopped at right now, that is the thing that should be styled and not where the rule ends. Okay. CSS selectors, fix that. Okay, so I just showed that. Okay, cool. Some cats. Right. If you have pink borders, yeah. Okay, cool. Works with other selectors too. Yeah. Okay, so you can use any. So I think actually in my example, I didn't add the direct child. Where's the has? Yes. So you can do this as well. I forgot about the direct child thing. Okay. And then let's continue. Yeah, so you can use all these actual operations. Apply green background. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so you can do really, you can do really clever things with CSS if you want. I think I actually have an example on CodePen somewhere where I have a actual main where I have an actual. Yeah, there's a lot of junk on here. Where I have an actual. Let me quickly see quickly. Oh, okay. I should clean up my code pen at some point. Maybe it's yeah. So there's no JavaScript. So this is just completely. See, I'm still using. This works all the way up to IE9. I'm just using Modernizer. But so this is all just CSS. I'm doing some stuff like some clever stuff, but so using SAS, and also like this, and but there's not any JavaScript, as you'll see here. So even if I let's keep Modernizer, but even if I comment out Modernizer, well, so this is all just plain CSS. Yeah, so you can do some clever stuff in terms of child selectors and whatever. Okay. So then continuing with this, cool. So yeah, all right, okay. However, when it comes to React, it's really something we want to do. Okay. So let's look at this code. I would assume that this example is really something we want. Styles like that are heavily leaked through component boundaries, the same as the child selector. Didn't we spend the last decade inventing ways to prevent that? BEM, SAS, CSS, and JS. Yeah. So this is also the other thing is, like if you think about modules and, separation of concerns, even, like we are, even by doing this, we are just like breaking like so many, like if these two things are two different components and whatever, like where does this file go? Does it go where we have the input checkbox, or does it go where we have the list item components or so forth? So it's just like all over the place. Suddenly revert everything. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So to a certain degree, this also, it's not as bad as this, but I think we also have to acknowledge to a certain degree this also might break your separation of concerns, because so but that's mostly due to how you write your CSS. So yeah, like, but yeah, it's one of those things that you can't give a hard and fast rule here, but it's less bad than this. But um, you can use this in ways that are not that great as well. So for example, if you go, um, let's say you go somewhere in there is a button element. Okay, so this is obviously not great because now you're kind of there's actual logic that you're applying to this component that gets influenced by something that's way down in the tree. So now this is where you start getting into spaghetti world, because now you're creating this coupling between this thing that's all this way down and this thing here. So you have these little noodles just like starting to form all through your code base. But like this is more a question around application. Like how do you actually use this has, and not necessarily something that's inherent about has. Because like you can do the same with this as well, and apply, if you apply it all the way down there. So it's less bad in terms of like doing that, but like yeah, I guess it's just with anything CSS and CSS selectors, like yeah, just be cognizant of that. A task board. We have a bunch of cards. Open, delete. Clicking on the open button will open the full content. Yeah, click on delete, deletes the card. Here's some. Okay, cool. So here's just like an example. We want the full keyboard access tabbing. Yeah, so you tab through it. Okay, I see where this is going. So she is probably using the focus state. Well, let's see. I want the card to pop slightly and the other cards in the column to grayed out. Plus, I want to change the border color of the active card. Let me see if there's a full example a bit further down, and then so I can just actually see. I think here it is. I actually want to just see the functionality. Okay, let's just. Oh, okay, okay, cool. So here's an example where she does this based on this code. Yeah. Okay, cool. But I think that's a different example than the. Okay, no, here's a ton of examples. Okay, we might not even get through all of them, but yeah, let's see how fast we can go. If we were to implement this functionality, we'd have to add, event listener, detect which button is currently active. Yeah, so you do the ref thing that I spoke about. So you completely eject out of React and handle this outside. We'd probably have to introduce context. Cool. So add data action attributes, data action open, data action delete. Find the card with the focus delete button inside. Focus delete, yeah. And change it CSS. Interesting. Okay, so so basically what we do is we find a card, and then we stop there. We say keep this thing, put a pin here, but check further down whether this rule is true. So then we check, does it have inside it an action that is open, that is focused. Ooh, okay. And then apply these styles on the actual card, the thing before the has. That's the hardest one. We need to find all the cards before. Most beautiful keyboard. Okay, let's try this out. Yeah, okay. Ooh, this is cool. So what's happening is, if you tab with your keyboard, so tab and shift and so forth, it actually changes the color of the card depending on. Ooh, this is cool. I like this. This is really, it's such a clever use of has. So depending on which one you're focusing on. So you can even do a hover state, I guess. So even, I don't know if she's doing it further down, but you can even say if you're hovering over this, change the color of the card. Otherwise, ooh, this is nice. Oh no. Oh no, she doesn't. Let me see if I can quickly edit it. That would have been really cool. Let's see. Maybe I can just quickly change the CSS. So let's say, so instead of focus, let's do hover. It might not be that easy, but let's see. Where does the color get applied? Color, blue, green. Okay. Oh, wait. Card has. Okay, so this is where all the magic happens. So instead, focus visible. If the card has open, let's try a hover. I think. Oh, I need to sign in. Never mind. Okay. But yeah, you can very much do the same, I guess, with hover as well. If you just change what you're doing in the has, you're checking for hover, not just for like focus state. Cool. Another use case I find fascinating is simplicity of color coding stuff. So yeah, this is very kind of similar to the example that we have that I showed over here with the list. So you're using the insides of something inside the thing that you want to style. So we're looking at the input checkbox over here, but then we're going to apply the style above it, and it's the same principle here. She just goes and looks at I guess she finds stuff that is empty, and if it's empty, then the thing above it should be red, the entire row. So this is very similar to what we did. I really like how you kind of come up with these use cases and so forth, and then it's very similar to the same use cases that other people come up with. And I think this just shows to like how useful this is and how many common problems it solves. The fact that we kind of arrived at the same thing independently as a use case for this. Very powerful use case. Really link. Okay, so this is the where she goes to the sides, and yeah, I think she applies it to the field set. Yes. So if it's disabled, cool. Okay. So basically, oh, this is cool. So okay. So if any input is disabled, cool. So you can save any input inside it. This is really cool. I like this. Field set has input focus, and then if you focus on any, this is cool. I really like these examples. All right. So if any, this is cool. So if any input is disabled, all of this grays out. So you target the entire thing. If any, so if you were to have 3 inputs or whatever, but you can probably also style it that if all the inputs are. How cool is that? Yeah. Yeah, it is really cool. I like it. Many more good opportunities. Cool. So then there's some helpful links here. So obviously just the actual, so just a bit more about has, which probably has a lot of similar examples. Then some other articles. Cool. Yeah, a Smashing Magazine one. One by Stephanie Eccles. Like she's amazing. If you like CSS and so forth and all of that, like follow her. She does amazing stuff. And okay, and just the release of it in WebKit, so in Safari. If it's released in Safari, like Safari's should be careful what I say now, but Safari generally is the last one, is the last browser to actually implement stuff. So when it's in Safari, you probably know, okay, cool, now it's good enough. Now it works everywhere. Cool, and some other examples. All right, so I have a couple more minutes left. If anyone has any specific questions or they want me to explain anything specifically, you're welcome to put it in the text chat. I think it might also just be worth looking at some of the comments, seeing what other people say. Yeah, agreed. Does with the description, but only if it's followed. Okay, but this. Okay, so it's saying that Indian says that has clauses cannot be nested. I think the has clause will achieve what the sentence says. Okay. So it's someone saying like they don't think the actual example code does what it should do. CSS and JS solution. I don't know what this guy's trying to say. I don't know what this guy is saying. Test rest. Cool. Fair enough. Great article. One note on accessibility. Oh, this is a great one. One note on accessibility. A field set should always have a legend. Also, field sets are yes. Okay. So if you're doing a field set, you should always give it a legend. So it should always have. So just to kind of show what that is. I think my browser froze. That's not good. Oh, okay. It didn't freeze. It was prompting me if I want to leave. I just didn't see it. So just to quickly show that. So if you don't know about field set. Oh, it's so nice to have this auto completion now as well, so I don't embarrass myself anymore in terms of typing from memory. So if you have like some inputs, so let's say you have a label, and so you can do it. So a lot of people actually. So maybe just another quick tip. So a lot of people do the thing where they go input. And they give it like an ID, let's say example, and then they do their label. Okay, and then they assign it for example like that. Okay, cool. You can actually, if you just nest it, your actual input inside the label tag, that does the same thing. And it also prevents like a little bit of a dead space between these two things, because it's like a big blob now that it handles the clickable area. Cool. So let's say we have these two things, and let's say they are name and surname. And if you want a field set, okay, that's a way of grouping it. By default, it applies this kind of style, which isn't great. But I just want to quickly see. I think you create it somewhere. So you, for example, go okay div, and let's just say contact whatever, and I think then you assign that as the label for the field set. Let's say field set legend. Let's quickly see. Oh, no W3 schools. Okay. It's an actual. You do it like that. Okay. Let's just say contact info. Okay. There you go. All right. But then like if you don't like this, you can just override the styling or whatever. But from an accessibility point of view, you need to include a legend to say what this field set is. Okay. Then Did I close the article now? No. Let's just see. A cool amount of use states I've been deleting lately is incredible. Yeah. Nice. Cool. Yeah. So you'd probably solve a lot of the other stuff, like by making use of use state. Example one should use focus instead of focus visible. Okay, cool. So if you don't know, yeah, I don't agree with this. Um, yeah, it's not meant to. Okay, I think this guy's misunderstanding the point of the example, but also just the difference between these um, is that um, you might not actually know this, and because I do see what people don't like. Let's say hello world, we have a button, and they don't want like very prominent focus effects, okay, or input. So if you have an input, so a lot of people, they don't want to, so for accessibility reasons, you obviously want to make it very pronounced if you tab through these. So you might want to go with something like, let's make the, I'm just going to go nuclear here, and let's say we just make it, you know like that when you focus it. Okay, cool. So that's useful if you're tabbing through it. But the problem is if you click it, then it does it as well. So you might not be using a keyboard and then, okay. So that just allows you to actually only set it for keyboard. If I understand it correctly, if memory serves correct. So focus visible, let's see. Uh-oh. Or it might only be for, I think, for example, for buttons, if I'm not mistaken. So actually, inputs don't distinguish between them, I think. Oh, come now. Let's do. And then B. All right. Let's see. So we tab it. Yes. Okay. So inputs don't care, but for things like buttons or whatever, so people would be scared to set like a very, so if someone is tabbing through buttons, so let's say you want to make your thing like let's see, the E, F, G. You want to make it accessible, so as someone tabs, they can very easily see where they're going. I'm pressing Shift Tab, Shift Tab, Shift Tab, 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 Shift Tab. Okay, so you can't see me pressing the keys, but then the thing is, if someone clicks it with the keyboard or with the mouse, you don't want this. And so, what a lot of people did previously, they would even sometimes like, because some browsers would have some type of highlighting thing built in, and they would actually override it. Outline none or whatever. Luckily, most browsers nowadays do the focus visible by default, so it doesn't apply a focusable indicator if you're just clicking play with the mouse and not tabbing. So you'll see now if I tab, okay, but then if I click, it doesn't apply the. So that's just something to keep in mind. I don't know what this guy's on about. Yeah, you definitely misunderstood the use case. Great CSS props and article as well. I don't get the last CSS part in the card, the before and after CSS. I commented and assume it still works as before. If you commented it out, use tab to navigate between the cards. You won't see. Yeah. Okay. Examples do not work at all. Oh, okay. So it was just not working with dark mode. Examples do not. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool. So I think that wraps it up. Really great article. I highly encourage you guys to check Nadia out. Here is a link to her book. This is a great read. It's recommended reading for all the juniors that work. All the teams where I work on that's using React. It's recommended reading material for all the juniors underneath, like that I manage. But yeah, she also has a lot of other great stuff as well. For example, this. Yeah. So I think she also has a YouTube channel where she, has a lot of really cool stuff, kind of explaining. So, here's, for example, like talking about memoization and so forth, and, like closures and, a lot of really, and I really like her kind of like style and vibe as well. So yeah, definitely check her out. And yeah, I think that's it from my side. Thanks to everyone that joined, and then hopefully the next CSS Breakpoint that we have next month, I'm going to be joining, I think, with Justin, and yeah, we'll probably also take a stab at something and kind of dig into it a bit and explain it a bit deeper and so forth. All right, I will put timestamps in this if anyone wants to review it and wants to watch a specific point anyway. All right, everyone, have a great day, and then I'll probably catch you at one of the future FedSA events or the next month CSS Breakpoint. Awesome. Cheers, guys.